Today, October the 10th, I'm joined by my colleague, Councilman Jose Huizar. We have 6 items before the committee today. On the regular agenda, we're going to take items 1, 4, and 6 on consent. If there are no objections, council member? No objections. We will receive and file item 2 on the regular agenda. Take up item 5, and we'll take up item 5 up first. Then here, item 3 on the regular agenda, and item 1 on the special. Okay. Okay. There's no general comment. We're going to close that general comment. Mr. Clerk, please read item 5 into the record.
Item number 5, continued from September 19, 2017. CLA and City Attorney reports and ordinances relative to amending the Los Angeles Administrative Code sections 10.36 and 10.37 relating to service worker, contractor, worker retention, and the living wage.
Okay, there's been a lot of discussion, a lot of work, all sides on this issue, and we appreciate the efforts. We've got 2 speaker cards at this time. We're going to ask Tim Maddox and looks like Amparo Ramirez. I'm sorry, Amparo Ramirez. They here? Tim Maddox. Someone check, see if he's okay.
Hello, Commissioners.
Good
Good afternoon.
afternoon.
My name is Amparo Ramirez, and I work for LSG
Just-
Study Chef.
Pull it up, thank you.
I have been working there for 2 years in a food department production. I live in a single-bedroom apartment with my 14-year-old daughter. Then I'm raising by myself. I pay $1,500 a month for my rent. I don't have insurance. I can't afford it. I want my daughter to go to the college, but it's really hard for me to support her because I don't make enough money. Every day I work really hard for the Sky Chef and the airlines. I'm a part of the aviation industry. However, I feel the airlines catering working has been in the shadow for too long. Please support us in our fight to make the living wage. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hello, how are you? I'm here in support of this measure because I'm an airport worker for over 23 years at LAX. I've seen a lot of change. I've seen a lot of billions of dollars invested in LAX, and LAX needs to, in return, have jobs that we can take care of ourselves and our family. The sister just mentioned about the rent and that's going on there. We also do 10 years background check, for any felonies or anything, so you have a good grade of people that are working there. We pay for parking, $55 a month. So these are the things and the issues of why we need to have jobs. We fought for health care for many years to have affordable health care for our members. And I think now is a time when the Olympics are coming, the billions of dollars are coming to here. It's an economic engine for the city. So in return, it should provide good jobs for ourselves, and we hope that you would pass this ordinance.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your comments. Melinda Franklin and Sean Williams.
Good afternoon. My name is Sean Williams. I'm with Airlines for America. We represent the major U.S. airlines, both cargo and passenger here in the United States. We're here today to comment on some of the intricacies of the proposal, one of which is that we would ask for an exemption specifically for airlines, our parent companies, and our subsidiaries from the ordinance. There are several cities who have such an exemption. Chicago O'Hare has one, MSP, Minneapolis-St. Paul, Fort Lauderdale, Seattle, Dulles, Reagan, and several other airports have such an exemption. The reason is because the wage and benefit packages offered by airlines to direct airline employees often far exceed the numbers that are being contemplated here in the proposal, and it creates a bit of an administrative nightmare. Ground service workers at most airlines, for example, make at least $14 an hour to start and make up to $25 an hour after year 10. And insurance premiums are already offered to employees, but it's very difficult to administer. They far exceed the $5.18 that's being contemplated here. So we would just ask that we be exempted.
Thank you.
Hello, sir. My name is Melinda E. Franklin. I'm the Managing Director of Corporate and Government Affairs for United Airlines. I would like to address the health care benefit provisions of the existing ordinance and proposed amendments before you today. The carriers at LAX support providing health care policies for workers independently employed through our service providers. The current ordinance, however, does not achieve this policy objective. We have submitted a recommendation that would guarantee all workers at LAX actually have health care. Many employers opt out of providing health care because the ordinance requires that if less than the current $5.18 per hour value of health coverage is provided, then any deficiency must be paid as hourly wages. It is an administrative nightmare, Sean mentioned, to precisely calculate the monthly dollar value of the benefit, and therefore many companies forego providing health care and the policy objective is not achieved. Similar to the practice at other major airports, we respectfully request the ordinance be rewritten to require each employee receive a free single health care policy based on good minimum standards and not on the cost of coverage to the employer. This will achieve the policy objective of providing health care to airport workers.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
sir.
very much. Thanks for your comments.
Thank you.
Okay, we've been going around and around on this issue. I think I've got most of my questions answered at the meeting we had on the 19th. I don't know, Councilman Weezer, do you have any additional questions at this time?
Not at this time, thank you.
We continue the item to allow for more discussions of all the stakeholders, and I believe those discussions have taken place and will continue to take place as we move forward on this. Right. So let's ask the CLA and the city attorney, please, to the table.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Danya Minasian,
Can you
Deputy.
put the microphone up to you, please? Thank you.
Good afternoon, Committee Chair and Council Member. Danya Minasian, Deputy City Attorney.
Steve Lee with the CLA's office. Did you want us to walk through our prior report, or were there any questions that we could be here to answer?
Why don't you just kind of summarize the prior report, and then we'll see if you have any questions. Yeah.
Our prior report analyzed the motion that was put forward by Motion Martinez, Price, Weston, Bonin, Harris, Dawson, and Cedillo, which requested equal annual increments to increase our living wage. And based on that instruction, our initial analysis, we increased the wages in increments of $1.23 per year. And in increasing that wage by $1.23 per year, by 2021 we did so to also achieve another instruction in the motion, which was to have the airport living wage be $17 by 2021, which is $2 above the minimum wage. In addition to that equal annual increase in increments, we also did an analysis on how we were going to correspond adjustments to healthcare benefits based on CPIU for medical care services rather than CPIU for all goods and services, which, based on our office's analysis, was a lot more accurate indicator of how we could correspond healthcare benefits, because CPIU medical care services corresponds to how much healthcare costs have increased over the past several years, which has been a lot higher than what we do with LACER's adjustments, which are capped at 3%. And in addition to that, we also looked at the motion's instruction to add an additional 16 hours of compensated release time for emergency response training, which would be in addition to the 96 hours that's already included for compensated time off for the living wage ordinance. And by including these 16 hours, airport contractors could only use this to provide emergency response training, and employees could only use it for emergency response training. So this would be on top of the 96 hours that was already included inside the living wage ordinance.
Okay.
So that's just a brief overview of the changes that were made based on the motion. If there were any other questions that either of you had with regards to this, we'd be more than happy to answer them.
Okay, great. Do you have anything to add?
No,
That's
if any
fine.
questions are presented, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay. You okay? Okay, good. Well, let's note and file the CLA report in as much as it was provided for informational purposes, and we do appreciate that. We'll make a technical amendment to the last sentence of section 10.37.15E. It should state, an employee who receives this waiver shall only be entitled to the hourly wage pursuant to section 10.37.2A to I. We'll also instruct the Bureau of Contract Administration, with the assistance of the CAO and the LA World Airports, to report back on the analysis of health care benefits at other airports, including in lieu of wages rates and other methods of ensuring health care coverage for airport employees. We'll request the LA World Airports, with the assistance of the Personnel Department, to consider implementing required emergency response training as a part of the secure identification display area badging process. LAWA should also consider seeking input from relevant stakeholders, including but not limited to airlines, service providers, LAWA police, TSA, Department of Homeland Security, and other relevant parties who may participate in training exercises prior to implementing this training. And also request the city attorney to include language in the draft ordinance similar to the LA Municipal Code, Article 7, Section 187.11, that would state, quote, every 3 years after July 1, 2018, the chief legislative analyst, with the assistance of the city administrative officer, shall commission a study to review the state of the airport's regional economy, LAX employee minimum wage impacts, LAX service industry impacts, transitional job program impacts, service charges, commissions, and guaranteed gratuities impacts, and wage theft enforcement. I can provide that in writing later. On an annual basis, the CLA and CAO shall collect economic data, including jobs, earnings, and sales tax. The wage scale would change as follows. Starting at Section 2I in the draft living wage ordinance under the section airport employee wages. Item B, July 1, 2018, the wage rate for employees shall be no less than $13.75 per hour. On July 1, 2019, the wage for an employee shall be no less than $15.25 per hour. And Section D, July 1, 2020, the wage rate for the employee shall be no less than $16.50 per hour. Is that clear? There are no objections? Councilman, that will be the order. So, thank you. All right, so we'll go to items on the regular agenda. Item 3.
Item number 3, Convention and Tourism Development Department report relative to the Los Angeles Convention Center Reserve Fund policy.
Okay, welcome. Thank you for your attendance. If you could just please leave slowly, we appreciate your cooperation. All right, Dom, you'd like to...
Thank you very much, Councilman. We appreciate the opportunity to present item number 3, the department report on the Convention Center Reserve Policy. This policy was approved by our Board of Commissioners at our last meeting, and we, again, appreciate the opportunity to present this. I'm here with our Assistant General Manager, Diana Mangiolu, who will review the details of the new policy.
Okay.
Good afternoon. This matter was first originated in Budget and Finance Committee earlier this in May during budget deliberations, and it was forwarded to this committee as a summer study. Essentially, we have a reserve in place as part of the management agreement between the City of LA and AEG, who is our facility operator at the convention center, and they are required to maintain a reserve as part of that contract, as part of their budget. And the agreement requires that 10% of the operating budget be set aside for the purposes of a reserve. Since they've been operating the building since 2013-14, we've been able to generate a surplus which we've been able to set aside for the purposes of making facility improvements, but we've also been slowly increasing our reserve. The question that came up during Budget and Finance was put together a policy and come back to us with your recommendations as to what that looks like. What our policy essentially recommends is that we have the opportunity to continue to build this reserve to an amount of $15 million. And currently our budget balance within the reserve is approximately $7 million as of the end of the 16-17 fiscal year. What we do is annually, once we cover all of our operating expenses, we take a look at what facility improvements need to be made. For the last couple of years, we've invested over $12 million, or at least budgeted and set aside $12 million in convention center revenue on facility improvements. So we have been assisting the impact on the general fund on that end, and also want to be able to build our reserve for the purposes of protecting the general fund. In the case of a year where we have a departmental shortfall, budget shortfall, which we have not experienced since AEG has operated the building, we want to be able to have our own solution, budget solution set aside, which was the whole purpose as to why the reserve was created. The reason why we're recommending $15 million as a cap or a maximum amount is based on a couple of things. Number one, we surveyed a couple of our competing convention centers. The majority of them have reserves. It's the first time for the City of LA to have a reserve. Their reserves range anywhere from $5 to $10 million. Our budget is comparable to their budget. But the other factors that we took into consideration is that if we are going to be moving forward with, hopefully once we move forward with an expansion, modernization of the facility, that would impact business. The fact that we are going to be hosting the 2028 Olympics is going to have an impact either leading up to or after that event takes place. We are going to be hosting regional events like the 2022 NFL Super Bowl and hosting meetings for events like that where they'll be utilizing our facility in a unique manner, which may impact business, and we want to be able to book more business like that. So given all of these factors taken into consideration, plus the fact that 90% of our expenses are fixed, meaning even if we don't have an event in the building, we still have expenses we need to pay, employees that we need to pay. And so those are all the factors we took into consideration in developing this policy. And we're happy to answer any questions.
Tom, any questions? I've got one. The proposed reserve fund policy would enable the executive director of the department to access funds from the reserve fund. Does the proposed reserve fund policy allow expenditures to be reviewed by the mayor and council?
Sorry. So that is currently how the management agreement is set up, where we annually we submit any expenses. First of all, we submit our budget every year to the mayor and then to the council. So that process is in place, and as part of that process and budget process, we also include what our expectations are for the reserve. We've never had to spend any money from the reserve. The reserve will only be used for unanticipated expenses. We will be required to, as part of the management agreement, to report back to Budget and Finance Committee should we need to utilize the reserve for any purpose. The way the reserve was initially created and as it stands in the management agreement, it authorizes the executive director that ability to make that independent decision.
I think, with the exception of an extreme emergency, our projections for utilization of the reserve fund would always go through the normal budget process. So it would go through the regular Budget and Finance Committee process and ultimately the full council and the mayor.
Any questions, Mr. Weezer? Okay, well, let's continue the item. Thank you for the report. And we'll also instruct the CAO to review the proposed Convention Center Reserve Fund policy and to prepare a written report with recommendations in 30 days regarding the policy. And if there's no objection, that's going to be the order. Thank you. Okay, let me just clarify. On the previous item, item 5, we're going to hold that item in committee and wait for the new ordinance to be transmitted. So,
Very good.
just to clarify that, again, thank you. Okay. I guess we're still on the regular agenda.
Yep. I believe we have heard everything.
Okay, so let's go to item 1 on the special agenda.
Okay. We are now in the special meeting. Special item number 1, CLA and CAO joint report relative to the adaptive reuse of the Lincoln Heights Jail as a site for economic development and exclusive negotiating agreement with the project developer, Lincoln Property Company, and related actions.
Okay, this is the adaptive reuse of the Lincoln Heights Jail, and should be an exciting project.
Chair, I have a question.
Yes, sir. Mr.
Is
Weezer.
someone here to answer questions on this item?
Yes.
So this is city-owned property. Do we have an affordable housing component on this?
Yes, we do, Mr. Chair. Clay McCarter with the CLA's office. So it's a city-owned jail. It was closed in 1965. It's been since from 65 until about 2014. Nonprofits use the jail. The proposed development on this jail would be a mixed-use development, including affordable housing.
What's the percentage, or what are we asking for?
We have the square footage of.
But we don't have a percentage of units that are supposed to be for affordable?
Hi, Blair Miller, Office of the CAO. I'm not sure if we have that in front of us. I did want to mention that this development is located in the Cornfield Arroyo Area Specific Plan, which deliberately limits the percentage of housing that's allowed on site. And so this will be, that's the goal of this was to be mixed use. And so the percentage of the property that is housing is, I believe, less than 1/3. And do you have the percentage that's affordable, Candy?
I don't have the percentages.
Yeah, we couldn't find that in the report. So
I think that remains to be negotiated between
okay. So
developers.
how many units of housing are we developing here? We don't
The
have
Lincoln
that.
Heights jail site, the developer is proposing 57,000 square feet of residential on the jail site itself.
Okay.
And the development team is comprised of Lincoln Property Company and 15 Group. 15 Group owns the 405 site across the street.
Okay.
And on that site, so they're proposing a mixed-use master development community on that site. They're proposing 211,000 square feet of residential.
Is there a city policy that when we dispose of city-owned property that and housing is constructed, that a certain percentage be affordable? We don't have such.
We're using, this site is using the economic development framework, asset management framework. I believe this is the first project to go through that framework. So that avoids the surplus property procedure, and it's a faster track to get the project. So I didn't think that there was there was a specific housing part of the economic development framework.
Whereas if a property is being disposed of through the affordable housing framework, then of course there would be a specific percentage.
Okay, so as of now, we know that there will be some affordable housing. We just don't know what percentage, and that's yet to be negotiated.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So, Mr. Chair, we would actually propose a brief, we'd like to amend this item. We just want to highlight the amendments. So we're asking authority to negotiate and also execute an ENA with Lincoln Property Company and 15 Group. That's an ad, the 15 Group. And we'd like to amend the term to be 12 months with a 12-month extension at the option of the city.
So the recommendation is to adopt the CLA and CAO report with recommendations as amended. And if there are no objections, that will be the order. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, just for clarification, this supersedes the committee decision on the regular agenda to receive and file, correct?
Correct.
Very good.
Thank you.
And when the actual project comes back, it'll be coming back for council review.
Correct. Yeah. Okay, Mr. Clerk, is there anything else for the committee?
That is the entire special agenda, sir.
Okay, that's, the special meeting is adjourned. We need to go back to the regular meeting?
No, we don't.
All right, then this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Good timing.